After a long, bloody war, Texas declared its independence from Mexico. This was just the beginning of the process that eventually led Texas to becoming the 28th state in the Union. The annexation process lasted through the 25th and 28th Congresses. It's not often that a bill is debated over various congressional sessions, but the passage of Texas annexation was an exception. On April 16, 1836, Representative Ebenezer Shields of Tennessee introduced a resolution to annex Texas. This was the first act in what would become a protracted, extended legislative struggle between the North and the South. On the opposite side of the issue, arguing against annexation, stood John Quincy Adams, a former U.S. president and congressman representing Massachusetts, filibustered the bill for 22 days, ultimately defeating the bill, which led to Texas withdrawing its petition for annexation. The issue of statehood would not officially be brought up again for a few years. So what happened that put Texas on the route to statehood after it had been defeated? A few years later, in 1843, President John Tyler revived the push to admit Texas in the Union. This came as no surprise, since he was a Southerner and ardent expansionist. At the time, his main justification for advocating annexation was the claim that Great Britain was attempting to interfere with Texas-U.S. relations. In 1844, the Senate considered the Tyler-Texas Treaty, which provided for annexation, the assumption of $10 million in debt by the U.S. government, and military protection for Texas. Leading the opposition to the treaty was not a Northerner, but a Southerner, Senator Thomas Hart Benton, a pro-slavery Democratic senator from Missouri. The chief reason for this was that he felt that Secretary of State Calhoun and President Tyler were recklessly provoking unrest among Americans and fanning the flames of civil war to advance their political agenda. The Senate rejected the Tyler-Texas Treaty with a vote of 36-16. During the 1844 presidential election, the key issue that circulated discussion and votes was the single issue of Texas annexation. Presidential Whig Party candidate Henry Clay was a strong opposer to Texas annexation because it presented controversies, including slavery and possible war with Mexico. On the other side of the spectrum, future Democratic President James K. Polk strongly supported the Texas annexation and eventually helped him win the presidency. Now that James K. Polk was elected, along with a Congress who was more ideologically aligned with him, the now lame-duck President Tyler and Congress sought to put the wheels in motion for annexation. There are two competing proposals for annexation, the Brown Amendment and the Benton Amendment. The Brown Amendment was seen as favorable to slaves' interests, while the Benton Amendment was favored by abolitionists. Ultimately, both amendments were included in the final legislation, which, with much discretion given to incoming President Polk in implementing them. On January 25th, the joint resolution to annex Texas passed the House of Representatives. On February 27th, the Senate passed a joint resolution to annex Texas, with amendments to be voted on by the House. The following day, the House approved the Senate version of the resolution. On March 1st, the outgoing President Tyler signed the joint resolution, and then the offer was sent to Texas President Anson Jones. Through a convention and a popular vote, the resolution was approved and sent back to Congress. And on December 16th, the House voted to annex Texas by a vote to 141 to 58, with 21 votes abstaining. On December 22nd, the U.S. Senate approved the admission of Texas as a state with a vote of 31 to 14, with 7 votes abstaining. Finally, after all the failures, setbacks, and delays, on December 29th, President Polk signed the joint resolution, officially making Texas the 28th state to be admitted to the Union.